All right, well, in Jake's absence, we're deciding to play him a little song. He's on vacation, probably swimming, and in his honor, we'll sing him Under the Sea. Hit it, go. 3, 2, 1, go.
You dream about going up there, but that's a big mistake. Under the sea. Under the sea. My dreams, my sorrows, they are under.
That's it.
That's the beat poetry version of Under the Sea. Yeah.
All right, yeah, so anyways, back to business.
That was very cultural. Yeah.
Now, I mean, that's the thing. It's like there are certain songs that have melodies that are so strong that even if you play the wrong notes, they kind of sound like the song.
Yeah, it's
Or you can recognize it at least.
Yeah, pretty much every song.
Pretty much every
uncanny.
song, if you listen to it enough.
Yeah. So Jake's not here, so it's just us in this room. No more banjo. Now we're in headphones. We're just gonna have a good old time talking about things. Maybe we should talk about Nick's dad and how cool he is.
First off, he's
I'll never
cool.
live up to his awesome name.
He does kick flips.
He does.
He does
do
stunts.
kickflips.
Nick, you're the showrunner
He's
of
in
the
the
Corridor
Choom
Crew
gang.
channel. You're just as cool.
Oh man.
He
Well,
stays up late.
9:30.
So Nick's dad used to work for ILM, and he's worked for a whole bunch of other like cool companies. And like Nick's mentioned that to us in the past, and we're like, that's neat. And then he's like, you should come in for VFX Artists React. I'm like, okay. And then he came in for VFX Artists React, and that's when we realized like, oh, he worked at ILM from like the mid 90s to the early 2000s, which is like the heyday of ILM. And he's like, oh yeah, he's the one who made The Mummy. Like, as in he designed The Mummy. And here's his drawings of The Mummy. And it's like, oh, your dad's really legit.
I'm really glad you guys saved that reaction for when we were rolling the cameras too, because it was a good one.
Yeah, and like things like designing like the beach matte painting for like Saving Private Ryan, and like explaining about how he did the historical research there. And it's like he holds up like this printout he has, like, oh, I did this in Photoshop, and then you look at the actual shot from the movie, and like half the elements are just the Photoshop elements put into like that frame, and you're like, wow, he basically made that shot too. And like just the list went on of all these things that he worked on, and like holding like the original pencil storyboards for like the beginning of The Mummy in my hands was pretty neat. And it's like, man, this is actually like some legitimate film history. And your dad was talking to Steven Spielberg, like working out details and all that kind of stuff.
I guess I took that for granted growing up, just like literally growing up in that like small office in San Rafael, California. It was called Kerner Optical. They had to name it. They gave it a moniker so that crazy fans of Star Wars wouldn't like find ILM and like try to steal all the models.
Huh.
But yeah, man.
That's funny. That must have been. Wait, do you know anything about that? Is that a thing?
Well, I mean, the fan base of Star Wars has always been a little bit crazy, I think. So Lucas has always been a very like just quiet, like to himself dude. And, he lived in the Bay Area, in the North Bay, north of San Francisco. So he, decided, I think we went into this a bit in the episode, he decided to move ILM up to the Bay. So it was in his backyard. And also because it was away from all the paparazzi and most of those fans that were maybe willing to like sneak onto the premises and, but I'm sure there were probably instances where that happened because Star Wars was huge. So, and, I mean, it was probably a good thing because like, I remember my dad would bring back sometimes things he'd pull out from the dumpsters behind the model shop, and they would be like miscasts of like models, like big spaceships, or like for instance the Nubis statues from the Mummy.
Oh yeah,
they'd be like perfectly cast except for one little bubble in the foot, and they'd be like, oh, we got to throw that away. So there were some good dumpster diving opportunities there that I'm sure they didn't want to like let people in on because it could give away things about the movies, or I don't know. But yeah,
you probably don't make the choice to like make covert names for all your offices until you have to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably. Wonder when we're gonna have to get there.
Man, that's crazy.
But-
I have this aspiration to have an art collection of like pieces from films, not just like, oh, here's a prop, but like here's like a matte painting that was used in this iconic shot, or here's like a storyboard for this iconic sequence. And I feel like the only way to actually assemble that stuff is to like know the people that made them. Like you can't just go out and buy it from like a collector necessarily.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, I'm sure if we petitioned him, he might be able to hook it up with something we could frame and put on the office
Having some
wall.
stuff framed in quarter would be pretty
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah.
Because I mean, even if they're prints, like they only exist on his hard drive or whatever. So
Mhm.
I mean, it's still maybe we could even get some original storyboards. But
Yeah.
no, it was really cool having him on. I wasn't sure like if he'd be good on camera.
He was good.
Like-
He was great. He clearly has watched a lot of episodes.
Yeah, and I mean, he's just a natural VFX nerd too.
Mhm.
So I think so we ended up actually today, Dean and Chase were like, we can't cut all this stuff because, by the way, it was our longest ever shoot.
Longest ever
Wasn't it a
VFX
day and a
artist react
half
shoot.
almost?
Yeah. It was over a day of
13
shooting.
hours.
Yeah.
Well, it's for 2 episodes.
It was
but
for 2
yeah.
episodes, yes.
Still.
Yeah, so we had to do this HBO integration, which is a whole episode, and we decided to film it that day as well because he's an ex-HBO employee too. So we're like, that works. So we shot all Thursday, mostly talking about ILM stuff most of the day, and then we shot a little bit more on Friday. So it's a record for us.
Mm-hmm.
But we're gonna split up the episodes now. We're gonna do just a mummy focused episode, and then we're gonna do one with Private Ryan, Mummy Returns, talk about the Scorpion King shot, the
That's
worst
Minority
VFX shot
Report,
ever. And then you guys put him in the hot seat.
Oh
too.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Ren was like, so why does this shot suck? So no, he's heard it before. So
He's heard it before.
yeah. I mean, that shot got panned, I think, when it came out. So I don't want to harp more on it, but I think he gave a pretty good explanation of like where things went wrong in that process, and took kind of I guess credit for it as a collective. It wasn't one person, but
Yeah, I think it's also worth like remembering that like stuff like that, like it's not that big of a deal. Like it's not a big deal if there's a bad VFX shot in a movie. Like we like to laugh at it and point it out because it's ILM and everything they do is always so good. Like to have one little flaw that's like, oh, they're human like us. Like, so what if it's a bad effect shot? They're movies, they're for fun, It's like, I think it's easy. Some people can get caught up in taking it too seriously when it's like,
Yeah, it's also not like comedically bad either. Like there's comedically bad effects in like the Street Fighter movie is a great example. Like all that's
We should look at
comedic.
that.
Like that's funny because of how bad that is.
I actually saw a comment for that on a VFX Artist React. We should look at that.
I think didn't we?
we did actually.
Oh, did we? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not the original Street Fighter, but the one from
Oh,
like
okay.
2009 or something.
yeah, that one was pretty nasty.
Yeah. It was just like straight up like mistakes and rotoscopes and stuff like that.
Did your dad ever see that episode? Like, we fixed the worst VFX shot? And
Oh,
was he
yeah.
like,
Oh yeah.
you're like, okay.
Sure he doesn't.
Yeah, I had, that was kind of an awkward one to explain to
really?
him, like the title. I'm like, because I mean, he watches the channel, so they see all the videos we
Yeah.
make, and that was 3 years ago? No, almost.
Something like that, yeah.
Jeez, time flies. But yeah, I mean, he wasn't angry or anything. I think there's enough time that's gone past that they've all been able to kind of, cringe that one out, Sometimes you got to cringe it out at night, You
20
just
years.
gotta-
Yeah.
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 But I mean, he, that was basically a case of the director wanting something very specific, and then the VFX team was like, "Oh, we don't quite have the technology," and they had to do it anyway. So, I mean,
They give it a go, but that's
there's a lot of ambition. Yeah.
that's kind of how it usually goes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's how you make great things. And if you miss the
Yeah.
mark, oh well. I mean, we have plenty of shots that have bad VFX on our channel. Like,
Yeah, we have tons of bad.
a lot of
VFX.
people think because we do VFX artists react that all our effects need to be flawless. It's like, no, not really.
Time,
Yeah.
There's
always
so
the
many
time.
other factors.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
One cool thing that you guys can look forward to in that episode whenever it comes out, we don't really have a time slot for that to come out, but he provided us with a bunch of the alternate concept illustration for the Scorpion King, and some
Yeah.
of them are like cool, some of them are kind of funny. So we'll be showing a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, that's
cool.
cool.
you know, there's a whole team of people drawing that guy in every possible variation. And a lot of them look, I think better, but you know,
Yeah.
it's not The Rock.
I'm
How many-
surprised.
Like what else are you gotta do? It's like a dude on a scorpion. Like what's the other version of that?
I mean, some of them look like straight up like, I know this isn't Egyptian, but like one of them looks like straight, you took like Jafar's face from Aladdin and like put him on like a more like insect like scorpion. So there's some really weird like hybrids going on.
Yeah, the one they
Interesting.
use
I don't
is
know.
very literal. It's literally a scorpion.obj, and then they chop it and they put the rock on there
A little crown on the top.
The Rock.obj.
with a crown.
He's a king.
Yeah.
But no, it's yeah. I think we got a lot of good stuff. So, and we've never looked at the art direction side of VFX before.
Mhm.
We often critique like the final thing, the 3D models,
Mhm.
but I would hope that there's still as much thought put into it as there was back in the 90s. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a different process. Like we've never, I mean, well, not never, but we've rarely drawn a shot before we made it. Usually it's like you get the footage and you're just like, and you just start playing with it right there
Yeah.
in the moment to build things out. So
that was, I guess, one of the reasons why ILM was like at the top of their game, because they were a one-stop shop. They had artists all in-house that could literally go down the hall and talk to the creature 3D artists and modelers and the model shop as well. Coolest job in the world, by the way. Get to make models all day.
Yeah.
Dude, oh my gosh.
I mean, the model shop basically single-handedly went on to like be the Mythbusters.
Yes, essentially.
Yeah.
It was Grant, Imahara,
Mm-hmm.
rest in peace, Tori,
Mm-hmm.
Jamie, and Adam were some of the main guys there, and there's a bunch of old school dudes too.
Mm-hmm.
But they were like the contemporaries then of the whole art department. So, dude, I remember as a kid just going through and being like what the frick is this place? Because it was just like there were spaceships everywhere, friggin' dragons, monsters, and it had that like epoxy smell, paint epoxy smell, literally just in like this warehouse. So it was crazy, man.
yeah,
So yeah,
Really cool. to
we're
have
gonna
all
be
those
taking
models.
we're gonna be taking a little walk down memory lane and some cinematic history in these episodes coming up.
I'm surprised Netflix doesn't do any of this kind of stuff, or anybody for that matter. Like commentary tracks. Why
Yeah.
not? I mean, I guess they're here and there on Netflix, but like, I'm really surprised it's not more of a thing. It's such like an easy thing to produce.
Yeah.
To like have some history on the stuff you make.
well, Netflix is doing it here and there. It's just that they're so like broad, you know, that like they're not. For instance, like the one they released, well, they thankfully released like a VFX breakdown for Army of the Dead, but like
Mhm.
I was trying to do research for that, and like the only stuff they have out other than the breakdown is just like a bunch of real light general stuff that there's no like actual information in there, you know, it's just
It's all
people,
marketing.
it's marketing basically.
Their 3D scanning rig for the zombies. How sick is that though? They have like the grip pushing this like cart around. And they also used accent suits. That was pretty cool
Yeah.
to learn. So they
Yeah.
go kind of in depth. Not quite.
Yeah, like the breakdown they released is
Yeah.
like the most robust VFX breakdown I've seen of any movie, like other than like the Marvel stuff lately.
Yeah.
It was cool to see that though. Maybe they'll start doing more of that stuff if it actually gets views.
Yeah, I
don't
mean
know.
that's the thing. It's well, this show, you know, this VFX artist react show. It's like, I think it's just it shows that like you don't have to be into filmmaking to enjoy like seeing the process breakdown, because ultimately you're just looking at cool images and go, hey, how was that made?
Mhm.
You know, and it's interesting. So
The Disney documentary was pretty cool.
Which
Just-
one?
Like just all the different animations. Like they broke down just
wow.
how like Finding Nemo and Toy Story, and they did it in a timeline as well.
Is this on
So-
Disney Plus?
Yeah, I
Oh.
watched it on Netflix.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah, it's
Hmm.
really good, really in depth. You really just see kind of how they structured, you know, like the different warehouses and when they all started
Wow.
collabing, and they were like halfway through Toy Story 2, and then they were like, oh, we hate it, and they had to redo it, but they were still on the same timeline, and it was crazy.
Dude, Pixar.
I really wanna
The
watch
technology they were using.
Do you
That
remember
sounds
that
really cool.
story about, I think it was Toy Story 2, where they accidentally wiped the master off their server.
Maybe that's what.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's what
And
it
it
was.
just
Big
so
no-no.
happened somebody had brought it home to like show their kid, and they like it's like, don't lose that hard drive. That's the entire movie right now on that hard drive.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
Probably
funny.
could fit on a hard drive back then.
yeah.
Dude, I went back and watched Toy Story 1 and I watched Shrek 1 recently. And we should look at that on Animators React because there's some crude stuff there.
Oh yeah.
Like in Shrek, there's straight up a scene where like there's like he's in his little bog hut and there's like some shadows from trees being reflected
Mm-hmm.
and they're straight up like tiled, like
really?
pixeled like in a video game essentially. And like that's stuff you didn't even realize, but now it's like, oh my gosh, this is like
No, yeah. The first
crazy.
Toy Story is the same way. There's like a ton of shots very frequently where you see like either super janky animation for characters where you're like, it's like, whoa, that looks like, you know, student like animation kind of like level stuff. And they don't shy away from showing close-ups of like really low res textures as well. I've noticed. I mean, I come back to this a lot, but I've seen the movie a lot of times. And so there's like a ton of details like that. You watch through it and you're like, ugh, like that's like the lowest res picture for this like ground. And you're just like, ugh. It's pretty wild. I mean, granted, you know, 25 years ago, but you know, it's interesting.
Well, we were just talking about this the other day. I forget who it was with, but we were wondering aloud if there maybe someone can comment below. Is there like a name for the effect of like seeing something and it's novel and it looks great, and then like 10 years later you look back and you're like, oh, that looks like absolute crap.
It's probably
like-
that's like the ultimate. There's a German word for this.
Yeah,
kind
there
of
must
thing.
be some German guy who in the 20s, you know, theorized about this.
Yeah, I agree.
Leave a comment below if you know the theory.
Because that happens all over the place. It's not even just like movies. It's just like even experiences.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember, I was like, oh yeah, I was like up in the UP in Michigan. I went to college up there. I was like, oh, there's this great restaurant. So great. We're gonna love it. we're gonna go because I went there in college. We had the best time here. And I go back there with, you know, my wife and my sister, and we walk in. It's just like it smells like garbage. And we look around. It's like it looks exactly the same. And they're playing like bad music. And it's just like this like this is nice. And like we immediately turn away and walk out, but it's like the same exact effect. You know?
It almost reminds you of like the Mandela effect or something. Like you like could have sworn something was the way it was.
Yeah.
And then
And
just
you like misremembered it.
no, it wasn't.
I had that for this restaurant called Fire and Ice. Have you ever heard of that place?
No.
You probably just liked it because of the cool name.
Yeah.
You're like, dude, meet me at Fire and Ice. I'll be in the rear table.
Yeah, I'll be in the ice
back.
section.
I remember like when I was like 10, we went on a trip to Boston to visit family, and there was like this restaurant called Fire and Ice, and like we went there, and like it was this restaurant where you like serve yourself and they cook it on a big hibachi like behind the
Okay.
counter. And it was like the coolest thing as a 10-year-old. You're like, yeah, dude, I get to choose my ingredients. Give me all those beans. Give me all those meats.
All the beans.
Yeah.
All beans.
Like, and I remember always, like, when I was a kid, I'd look up where Fire and Ice was because I wanted to go back.
It was a chain restaurant, or was
Yeah,
it just
yeah.
one?
It was a chain. It was a chain. There were some other ones.
Never
And
heard of
I
it.
finally forget where I found a restaurant that did the same kind of thing. It wasn't a Fire and Ice, but I was like several years older, more refined. And
Golden
it was-
Corral kind of does it.
Maybe it was a Golden Corral with my Mima.
It was Golden Corral the whole time.
Yeah. Dang. Oh, I've been old at heart since I was 10. But it just was not the same experience. It was just like, oh, this is kind of gross. It's just like a bunch of beans and meat. Like, it's not the same experience.
That's
So,
funny.
Yeah. We often remember things much more intensely, I think. But
Yeah.
When I was up in Minnesota 2 weeks ago, we were driving up to this wedding, and we happened to go through the town that I guess grew up in. From when I was born to when I was age 5, I grew up in the town of Rice, Minnesota,
right.
which was a town of 400 people. And we were driving through it, and I was like, Ivy, we should see if we can see my old house, because I haven't been back to my old house there since I left it when I was 5 years old. And so I drove there from memory. I managed to find the house. And I was like, you should drive down the driveway. It's like, they're gonna think I'm weird. It's a really long driveway, so like you have to very intentionally be going to the house. So just do it. I'm like, all right. So I drove down, and sure enough, one of the owners of the house is out there gardening, and she's like, "Hey, how's it going?" I'm like, "Hey, I used to live here actually. I just showing my wife. We were on the tour. She's like, oh, that's cool. What's your name?" I'm like, "Oh, it's Nico Perringer." And she's like, "Oh yeah. We bought it from your dad 30 years ago." And it's like, whoa, okay, so you guys haven't left yet. It's like, no. She's like, "You want to have a tour?" And I was like, yes.
Whoa.
And so I got to tour my old childhood house that I haven't been back to in 30 years. And it's one of those things where it's like, it leaves an impression on you, and that like your mental vision of like houses is always that house that you kind of grew up in. And it was really cool walking back through it. And like they hadn't changed very much of it. It's just the whole thing was a little bit smaller than I remembered because I was a lot smaller back then when I left
smaller.
it. Yeah. But that was really cool.
That's trippy.
Yeah.
That's really trippy.
It's one of those things that you talk about where it's like, yeah, it's your memory of it's one thing. And I was happy that my memory of it wasn't that far off from what it actually was. Like, this beautiful backyard. It's really nice out. But yeah, it was a little bit smaller than I remember it being.
Yeah, it's strong.
I was hoping that the same thing was going to happen to me. And I was in San Francisco this weekend, and I went to go visit my great grandmother's.
Oh, wow.
She owned a 3-story flat in the heart of San Francisco.
Mm.
And so I went back, and all they did was just change the color of it. But I remembered like the steps going up, and I was just hoping that someone would be coming out, and I'd be like, please let me go inside of it. It'd be so cool, because they're so much bigger than they think. All the houses in San Francisco,
Yeah.
and they look like they're small, but they go back so far, and they usually have gardens in the back. There's so much history. I haven't been there in like over 10 years now, but I definitely would have.
So you weren't able to actually get inside? You
No,
just
no
wanted to
one
go?
walked in
Oh,
or out. Yeah.
Dang.
Man, I still remember the smell of my grandma's flat in San Francisco, where my dad grew up and where she lived her whole life.
What area do you remember?
It was in North Beach. It was on Chestnut Street. I forget the address.
Yeah.
But yeah, it had like this like mix of like mildew and cigarette smell. Like,
Nice.
And it was just like this really old building, but yeah, it had like this huge. It went back.
Yeah,
Like,
they're huge.
crazy.
Sam's a San Francisco baby too.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's just funny. No, we're talking about, I'm like, well, I too.
What part?
You guys
It
being
was,
from San
I think
Francisco.
2015 was the last time I was there, but I went past my childhood home, and that was in San Francisco, where I mostly grew up until I was like 6.
What did
Wow.
it smell like?
What did it smell like? I mean, I didn't go inside, unfortunately, but a lot of crazy memories there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just wiling out when you were
Crazy
6 years
childhood
old.
memories. No, I mean, well, like my biggest memories like are like kind of bad ones. Well, like all sorts of stuff. Like there's a park right across the street from the place. It was like a rec center with like a big, baseball, soccer field kind of thing, which is nice. But like my 3 main memories of it were going there with my tricycle and some kids stealing it. My mom chasing them. The second of which was these crazy people like drifting their car through the grass and shredding it up and
my
like
gosh.
kicking up dirt everywhere and just like doing donuts. And then the third one was there was like riots that were happening. I think this was like the Rodney King riots basically the whole street and the park was stormed and cars were smashed and broken into.
Wow.
And
San Francisco has always been.
and
kind
then
of a crazy
the earthquake
place.
in
Yeah.
-- was like my
Whoa.
first memory, and like
You have
cutting my
memories?
feet up in glass and stuff, and having to wear my dad's cowboy boots. It's like those are
Probably
like
couldn't wait to move.
those are the main ones that came to mind. Yeah, I know. Like there's good ones that happened inside the house, but like those are like the big ones.
Wow.
Yeah.
My parents were like, we're leaving the city.
Yeah, and we're leaving, and so then we moved to Minnesota.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's like stark.
There's definitely a
opposites.
lot of like glass everywhere because everyone's windows are just getting shattered.
Really?
Yeah, like we walked the Golden Gate Bridge. Maybe it took us like an hour, and we walked back, and we see this family crying in the parking lot, and we're like, oh, I wonder if like they're visiting, like someone died or something. And then we just keep going, and then their whole window was smashed, and like you could tell like all the kids' stuff got stolen. It was a minivan, and I was like, oh my, like our car was parked right next to theirs. We could have easily. Well, luckily we didn't keep anything in our car just because we know San Francisco. But they actually just passed a law in San Francisco. You cannot like arrest or incarcerate someone for stealing under $900 worth of
Heard
stuff.
about that.
So there's literally videos of getting taken of people just putting stuff in bags and just walking
Yeah,
out.
they go into CVS and then they fill up a bag and then they leave.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Uh
It's
That's the worst
crazy.
law.
oh.
But you would think
I-
if they're doing that, then maybe like windows would stop getting smashed because it's like they're getting their groceries. So I don't know. We'll
Wow.
see if it helps. But
Yeah, I don't think that's going to address the income inequality.
Anything under $900 is free. Yeah, there we go. No stimulus checks needed. No like UBIs needed. There we go.
get some AirPods.
Yeah, right.
I want some new AirPods, some new shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I need some hair conditioner. Let's go.
Yeah.
Some new hair
Let's
conditioner.
do it.
Yeah. You walk in a guitar center and like $8.99. I'm good.
Does that include sales tax or no?
Yeah, the cop comes out.
Yeah.
Tax!
Is it $900 with or without sales tax? Because that's what I'm trying to figure out.
And they're like,
What about
why
a
do you
coupon?
ask?
So I would have like what if it's like $950? I have a coupon for 20% off.
No, it's not with sales tax because that's charged by the government. So yeah, it's
You're right.
retail value. It's MSRP.
MSRP.
Shall we go?
Oh man,
Oh boy.
What a crazy law.
SF is kind of a crazy place now. I
Yeah.
visited a couple times in the last couple of years, and it's completely different. I mean, I'm sure you remember it was, and you probably remember too. It was like just a normal city, working class people, like just living their lives, and now it's just like tech central, and it is it's kind of sad to be honest.
Yeah.
But
I didn't
What are
notice.
you gonna
I mean,
do?
the last time I was there was like with you in like 2016 or
Really?
something. Remember?
Oh, for EA.
We went to EA
Battlefront
to play something for
2.
Battlefront. Yeah.
Yes, you're right. That was a quick little trip we did. Yeah,
That was like I think the last time I was up there.
yeah. We were just in the city though for like a night. I
Yeah,
think.
it was
Yeah,
dark.
we went to like this medieval tavern bar.
I know.
With like some taxidermy.
I was like,
birds.
Nick, we have like 3 free hours. Let's go to
Yeah.
a crazy like Belgian restaurant because I was
Yes.
like hot off. Oh, this was 2017.
Oh yeah, we went to the Belgian restaurant.
We went to the Belgian
yeah.
restaurant because I was craving like Belgian beef stew.
Yep.
As one does.
Yep. Some ale, some nice Abbey ale. Yeah, and then we went to like this other, weirdly enough, another medieval bar thing. And then
Oh yeah, that was weird.
yeah.
It was kind of cool. It was the place that had like the Lord of the Rings door. That's what I call it. It's the half doors where you can
Oh.
have one door
It's a
open
door
and then
within a
and then
door.
it becomes a counter.
Right.
Almost like a saloon or
For
something.
people
It's
of
kind of
all
a saloon.
sizes.
Yeah.
SF, yeah. I
It's
don't know.
gorgeous.
It is gorgeous.
I honestly, I was up there and I was like, I want to move here. I'd have to live on the street, but
Win the lottery. I mean, $900.
You got $900.
I bet I could get my groceries every
There you
day.
go.
I,
Yeah. Is there a limit on that? Is it like a day, a week?
yeah, just once a week.
Yeah, I
Man.
think it's until they forget how much you've stolen previously and then it refreshes.
Oh man. Well, I guess everywhere's kind of turning expensive now. But
Everywhere's
yeah,
turning expensive, but it's not like San Francisco's a unique bird in that
Everyone's been complaining about for like
That's true.
San Francisco for like 20 or 30 years already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you also, you have Silicon Valley, and I believe a lot of people in the tech industry would see themselves as being altruistic, good-natured people, which
Uh-oh.
they probably are.
Gonna deep cut.
This isn't a deep cut. No, it's not. This is not a judgment thing. It's not a judgment
He's
thing.
like, they're all nihilist.
I'm just saying that, like, but when you have an industry that's pumping everyone full of money, but other industries aren't the same way, you end up with harsh inequality, and I don't know how much people are volunteering to to try to fix it. I mean, there's the what's the term for this? The Pygmalion effect.
Pygmalion effect.
Oh, yes, the Pygmalion effect.
The classic Pygmalion effect. What is that?
Pygmalion effect is that people aspire to fulfill your expectations. So if you expect more from somebody, they will perform better. And they did this test with like a classroom of students, and they told this teacher like, that kid over there, they're actually a really good achiever. So, you'll have a good time with them. And they would do that with random kids.
It is called the Pygmalion effect. It's a phenomenon where high expectations lead to improved performance in a given
Exactly.
area.
Boom.
And so they would tell teachers like, have high expectations for certain kids at random, and that kid would actually perform better at the end of the year. And I look at our society and I see like, how we think about politicians or police or all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, boy, we have the exact opposite of that going on right now. Like we all expect the worst from our politicians. So why the heck would anybody ever give a shit?
Yeah.
It's like if we expected the best from people instead, maybe they'd give us their best. But if you're going to treat someone like shit and say that they're a bag of dicks or whatever, like they're going to be like, well, fuck you. I'm not going to try. Sorry, this is just a bunch of profanity coming out of my mouth. Good luck censoring all this, Christian. But that really stands out to me. It's like, I think you got to expect the best from people in order to get the best from people. And if you're not expecting the best from people and you start changing that point of view to be a really negative one, you do hold power in that point of view, and you should catch yourself before it gets too deep. So yeah.
Wow.
Well, I mean, SF, I don't hold any resentment for those people, I guess, who are driving the prices up.
No. I'm talking about like, the expectations of like the politicians to fix it.
Yeah.
Everybody
I see.
Like
expects
moving
the worst.
forward.
Yeah.
Not that it's necessarily the politicians' like problem to fix either. Like it's a shared responsibility by everybody. It's easy to pass the buck.
I mean, what are you going to do? Say, hey, if you have more than this much money, you can't move to San Francisco. It's kind of a hard thing.
It's really tricky. 100%. Yeah.
It's, but I mean, hey, for those homeowners who still have their property, I'm sure they're happy enough because values have gone up so much. But
I will say owning a home for the past year has definitely like shifted my perspective of money a little bit because like the house has gone up in value, but the house has gone up in value like every other house in LA has. But it's not like I actually have any more money if I were to sell it because I can only buy the same house. My dollars aren't worth anything more. It's just worth more dollars. And then you're like, oh, that's inflation.
Yeah.
The housing supply, it's the same as it was last year and it's the same as it was the year before. And granted, right now, like people who are going to get a house in 2020 but didn't because of the pandemic, like now you have them stacked on top of the people that just are naturally looking for houses in 2021. And there's also a lot of talk of recession in 2019, so people kind of held off then. So you also just have like a backlog of people that were looking to get houses, like, and that'll sort itself out in time. But yeah, just seeing how a house goes up in value and just like that's not a reflection of the value of the house; it's a reflection of the power of the dollar to some extent. I mean, it's a complicated network too, but also things like, even owning a house is not really about the price of the house; it's about your monthly payment in a way. It's about your mortgage. Which is basically just rent, because at the end of the day, you don't own a house. The house outlives you, right? My house has had how many families go through it? We're just a caretaker for the 5, 10, 15 years that you're there. And then you pass it off to somebody else. And ideally, you've done a good job and you're rewarded with getting your deposit back. Your safety deposit, which happens to be a lot more than it would be for an apartment, but it's kind of the same concept.
I wish we could all just agree to like, instead of having these perpetual mortgages that never get paid off and we just keep handing the debt off to more people, like let's just make houses like $300, like let's just lower that for everybody and then we can actually just buy it and sell it. But it would be the same thing.
But the government made, the stimulus last year with the pandemic to try to keep us from having a recession and a depression, which we had with a little bit of, but like when mortgage rates dipped down to be like super cheap, it's like, for the exact same monthly payment, I can now buy a house that's 20% more expensive. So what changed? Like not a lot. It's like it's my monthly payment's the same because it's not about how expensive the house is. It's about what your monthly payment is. If your monthly payment's the same and you can buy more house, suddenly it's like way more people are either looking for more houses or all the prices in the houses just go up. So that the same people can afford the same houses. It's just that the numbers have switched to like compensate for the other numbers switching. And at the end of the day, it's like your dollar is not worth the same amount of a dollar anymore. It's all over the place. So it's been weird watching all that, like from the perspective of like real estate. And
The real estate perspective.
That's why people listen to this podcast, right?
We should rename it.
Sorry, guys. Everybody listening to this
On
just gets to
real
hear what's
estate.
on our mind at the time of the podcast, and we just hope that what's
Do you
on
have
our
any-
mind is interesting.
Yeah. Do you have any good like land picks? What are your top 5 land picks?
Yeah.
I don't know, I mean, you've been the longest homeowner here. How about you? What's
Land picks?
Yeah.
Land with grass is on a downward trend right now.
You don't get those mineral rights. You don't get those
Mineral
lumber rights.
Yeah,
you
mineral
get, like-
lumber rights are on the rise.
What's the
But-
best kept secret about swamps?
How deep they truly are. Yes.
When does a swamp become a trench? That's what I'm wondering.
The swamp becomes a trench. Oh, geez. You have to get the water out of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Now we're like out of joke territory.
No, I'm actually wondering. It's
I don't
for,
know.
My friend is
Top
doing
top
some
5
research.
real estate biomes. Tundra. right now it's tundra, taiga. What is it?
Desert.
No, not deserts.
No.
Not
Oh, yeah?
not the 120-degree heat right now.
Worst places to spawn every morning.
Worst place to spawn.
Sam,
boy.
you spawn in a hill biome every day.
I'm gonna spawn in a hill biome every day. Yeah, best hash
Man.
codes to spawn into.
Yeah. I kind of had a pipe dream like last month of like, because I've been looking at moving,
Mhm.
and everywhere I was looking at was like, oh yeah, you're gonna be paying essentially $2,000 of rent. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna maybe look into potentially pooling with someone else and buying a place, and then
Mhm.
instead of paying into nothing, pay into a mortgage. And I called some real estate agents and like just kind of like sobered me up real quick, because like right now in LA, the real estate market is just so insane.
It's so crazy. My neighbor sold his house, and to like just someone random, like just without a realtor.
Yeah.
It was just like
Probably put up a sign out front like for sale.
he was like, hey, does anyone want? Oh yeah, okay. And
like
then he
cash
gave the
thrown at him.
Yeah.
Honestly.
yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of so I don't know.
You
Gonna
basically
wait and see what happens.
like the
with
only way to
economy.
guarantee you're gonna get a house in LA right now is if you go to the house you want to buy and sit outside until the for sale sign comes up.
Camp there.
Yeah,
Oh
you
my
literally have to
gosh.
camp
Spawn
outside
camp.
the house. Might be up to a few months to a year, but yeah.
Yeah,
I will say it's not a bad idea to buy a place, even with it being crazy. Just it's a good time to just start looking and like follow the trends. Like look at houses for about 3 or 4 months, tour a couple. This will settle down a little bit.
It'll probably settle
yeah.
next year.
Yeah, prices aren't going to go down, but they will not climb as fast, and the crazy demand will probably chill just a little bit. There'll always be some of that crazy demand, but it's really just a numbers game of like you got to take a lot of shots for one to hit. I mean, that's what I had to do, But having perspective on it, like, because you want to be looking for a couple months, and like once you've done that and you have an idea of what to see in different houses and what the process is like, and you've done a couple bids, even if you didn't get them. Like that really helps once it becomes time to be like, okay, this house I actually really, 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 truly want. And then you want to go for it for real. Having some of that experience behind you helps.
Definitely. I got a lot to learn. It's much
That's a
different
lot.
than the rental game.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of cool though to like at least imagine yourself like, oh yeah, I could actually be not just pissing my money away every month.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
We'll see
Yeah.
what happens.
I wish you
There's
could like lease a place, like how you lease a
Yeah.
car,
Oh yeah.
and then you can like at the end of your lease, like I'll buy it, like
Just like
you
yeah,
know,
just-
and it's just
Well,
easier.
there are
Yeah.
renters that
Left.
do that,
Huh.
but they probably won't do it in LA.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. I'll probably just
Yeah.
like buy in Florida first or something.
I mean,
I'll probably do that when I move. I'll be
Yeah.
like, you can rent it for
Yeah.
a year or two. Then I'll sell it to you.
just gotta make sure.
Mm.
Make
Yeah.
sure you're made of the right stuff.
Just gotta make sure, yeah. Watch you through the cameras. Make sure you don't nick the walls too much.
Cameras.
Every time they're walking, it's just like Sam.
Super loud camera for some reason. Like, never oil. No
You can
camera
constantly hear it
grease.
focusing. Just like. Yeah. So I went to Omegamart this past weekend. Some of you might know of it. So there's this like art collective called Meow Wolf, and they have like this like art installation museum place thing, experiential thing, and I think it's New Mexico. They all got together and put something together in Las Vegas. So it's in this place called Area 15. And part of this place of Area 15 is Omegamart, and you may have seen some ads for it online or some things popping up. And it's like a alternate reality grocery store. It's very like Aperture Science, Black Mesa kind of stuff with a little bit of Tim and Eric mixed in. Phone was ringing. My mom's calling me. You can,
Put her on
you
the
can answer my
cast.
phone and we can talk to my mom on the
Mima's
podcast.
calling.
And it's really cool. Like, so they have all these like products in the front that are like really goofy. Like, there's this cereal that's just like simply not spiders. It's just like a bunch of shredded wheat, and like they're talking about it. There's no spiders in it. And that's all the marketing's about how there's no spiders in the cereal. Or you know, I got Jake a present. If Jake listens to this podcast, he'll hear about this present before he actually gets it, which is the scent of verbal agreement. And it's just like an air freshener. I got Sam sports chips.
Sports chips. You should take a look, Nick. Yeah, you'll like them.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
They
I
just
love
have sports lingos
Yeah.
all over it. It's just run-on sentences about sports
Oh,
for the whole label.
Yeah. You can actually buy anything in the grocery store, or most of it.
Oh, nice.
Like they had robot milk, which is just sand. And I got Ivy some gum, which is Doomed Expedition, like Arctic Madness, and it's just about like the packaging's just like an Arctic expedition that's failing, and they're cannibalizing each other, and that's how cold the gum is. So there's a bunch of like really cool stuff, and you stand in the shelves and you're picking all these things out and looking at them, and then like different parts of the store, like you open up the freezer and there's a tunnel, and then you walk through the tunnel and like things shift and you find yourself in this like alternate like dimension, which is this entire back part of this place, which is all these different cool experiences. Like some really cool 3D projection stuff happening in one room, a bunch of really crazy light installations, and they have like music machines where you can like play beats with other people and like change the visualizers based on how you're mixing the music. Like there's a whole bunch of like little rooms with all these different effectively art installations. It's basically a mini Burning Man. I haven't been to Burning Man, but I understand that apparently like a lot of the artists working on this are people that make stuff for Burning Man. And you can just spend hours there like playing with all these things. It wasn't too crowded when I went there. Like there's definitely people there, but like
Do you go as like a group, or you just walk
wander?
around?
Yeah, you just wander. It's like it's like a Chuck E. Cheese's for adults.
Wow.
pretty sweet.
Yeah. So I highly recommend anybody who goes to Vegas, go check out Omegamart. Totally worth it. It's a ton of fun and a bunch of really cool trippy things.
Maybe we can work that into our NAB trip this
Yeah,
year. if
actually,
it's
that's
still up
not a
and
bad
running.
idea. Yeah, if we do go to NAB. Yeah, because that's the last time I was at Vegas was for NAB in 2019.
Gosh, yeah.
Still gonna do that?
I think it's in
I think
October,
they're doing it in the
right?
fall. Yeah.
Huh.
We'll see.
October, yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
man. Gotta go network with the YouTube people,
Yeah,
the industry.
with the industry. Yeah, a lot has changed. Like in the
It has.
few years we went. Like when we went in 2019, we did karaoke with Beeple and like the CEO of Maxon, and like we were just all a bunch of nerds singing songs. And then like
Now look at us.
Now we're rock stars. Now we're all rock stars, including especially Beeple.
Yeah.
Oh, I
And the
thought you were gonna
CEO
say
of
we were like
Maxon.
all grizzled and jaded or something.
No. Like quite the opposite. I feel like the world has shifted in a way that has like elevated a lot of the people working in that industry that we're a part of to be a lot more like publicly visible and a lot more like impactful on culture and all that. So that's interesting, and I wonder how it's going to shape NAB when we go back.
Yeah.
I think it'll.
Yeah, Christian just mentioned astutely that React was not a thing
Yeah.
last time we went to NAB. And then we were like just joking around about the prospect about like bringing the green couch out there for the
and
panel.
doing a live React
Yeah.
episode.
That'd be pretty sweet.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. No, I know it's a big deal. Wait, I mentioned it yesterday? The thing with Neil Blomkamp,
Oh yeah, your friend Neil.
my friend Neil.
So what is that? Because
You know Neil. Have you met Neil? My friend.
I saw this short film you did. Yeah.
No, like because he's making a movie and he reached out,
He
to
makes movies.
do something, but yeah, we're gonna try and get him on the show soon. But
Could you be more nonchalant about this?
it's the coolest thing ever.
It's so cool.
I'm so afraid when he comes here, if this works out, that like it's just gonna be madness. It's just gonna be crazy.
You're gonna
Like
forget how to talk.
everyone's gonna be like doing wacky things. The Ren's gonna be like trying to like jangle from stuff, and like it's just gonna be like people are gonna like lose their minds because
Yeah.
it's just like, oh my god.
Suddenly we're gonna have like a full crew lighting React. Everyone's
Yeah.
gonna want to be showing how they can set up C stands.
Dude, the same thing's gonna
It's
happen.
like
if
no,
get
we
Adam
only need like
Savage.
2 people. Don't.
We might actually have to have a live studio audience for that. I mean, I was saying I
No.
was reserving that for Jackie
That's
coming
the-
in. You
No,
know,
because everyone's gonna feel like tempted to be like, ah, or like, wait, but what about this thing? Or like come yell questions. And
we can film them reacting to the reactions. Oh man.
we'll just put a mirror next to the couch.
Oh yeah, so he can watch himself as he reacts.
No, you just we pan down to the mirror to see like random faces.
see if you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
The React episodes with guests are always the most intimidating because, like, a lot of the time, like, not that we're winging it a lot of the times, but like, you know, we're working off of our collective knowledge, which isn't always correct, but thankfully in editing you can catch some of these things. But when you have like a guest on the couch next to you, it's like I get very timid about making like concrete statements about how things are
Bold
done.
statements.
Yeah.
What's the most nervous you've been with any guest?
Probably Matt Aiken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from Weta. It's just like, oh my god, this guy is like, I am a poser next to this dude. You know,
He was pretty legit, man.
you might find out if I say anything, so I'll just keep my mouth shut. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. We're slowly working our way up Jackie Chan.
Yeah, we are. We got
feel
Scott
like
Atkins, of
we're getting
course.
close. Scott Atkins was awesome. I know you guys
Yeah.
talked about this a little bit last time, but that was a cool one to have.
That was really cool.
I didn't know he'd fought Jackie like twice
No,
or
neither
3
did
times
I.
or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a really fun episode.
What did they have beef or something?
No, yeah, no. Yeah, he just saw him. He was like, "You, come here." No, when he was starting out as a stuntman, I guess he got to fight him in the Medallion, and then I forget the other movie he was in. He didn't really talk about any others.
Yeah.
With Jackie, but
I mean, they're just pretty straightforward fights.
Yeah.
It sounded like.
Yeah.
I need to reach out to him because we talked about potentially doing like an effect for his next movie, and I'd love to do like some cool set piece effect for him.
yeah,
Yeah.
he has a cool thing going. He is able to like produce and star in his own movies.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the dream. I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Honestly.
like Steven Seagal.
Yeah, honestly. And like make that money overseas too. Like I'm
That's
That
sure.
overseas
Yeah, man,
bounty.
dude,
I'm surprised Steven Seagal still makes movies. Like,
they're so precious.
They're so janky and
We
weird
should-
and strange.
we should definitely do some Stuntman react to see.
I saw
fight
some
scenes.
clips from one he did. Like I forget, it was like military themed, and it was like legit airsofters. It was like literally like airsofters
Mhm.
playing like at one of those like war sets that are up north of here, and like everyone's wearing like the funniest like airsoft gear, and they're like, we're Navy SEALs. It's like you're pretending to be Navy SEAls, and like this is like it felt like an 8-year-old was like explaining like
Honestly,
what
that's
the
a great
airsoft
way.
game was going to be like.
Dude.
You know, he like Steven Seagal makes a point of sitting down for like all of his scenes, right? He doesn't like to
Yeah.
stand.
Oh, I
so-
can tell.
He always changes scenes to sit down. He just also hits the stuntman.
Dude, he's like him and like Nick Cage is like one step above Steven Seagal in
Yeah.
that like he has such a career now of just like starring in these movies where he's like the biggest guy in the poster and then he's there for like 3 scenes sitting down.
Yeah.
His recent ones are like weird movies though, which is
Yes.
you know, it's like it's definitely an artistic like motive for making these things.
For sure.
Unlike Steven Seagal, which is just like trying to uphold his title as action hero.
Dude.
Well, Nick Cage had some tax troubles, so that's why he ended up doing a lot of movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he had to pay off the tax bill. He almost pulled a Wesley Snipes.
Whoa.
I was watching Blade this weekend, and it's really weird that Wesley Snipes went to jail for not paying his taxes. It's like, really? You put Blade in jail?
That's where he's most dangerous.
Because he didn't pay his taxes? I mean, yeah, make him pay his taxes, but you put him in jail? How's that going to help anything?
Go to jail. That's what they say. They catch you and they're like, go to jail now.
And the funny thing is, like, I can see how it would happen.
Please.
Like, if anybody's ever done 1099 work, like, you get paid, and you're like, oh, cool. And then you spend the money, and then, like, a year passes, and then it's like, okay, now you owe us 40% of that. And you're like, oh, I didn't know that was going to happen. I do not have 40% of the, whatever, $1 million you paid me. I no longer have $400,000 to give you for taxes. Like, that's
It's a lot
more or
of
less
money
what happened to
when-
Wesley.
Yeah. I mean, I can kind of see it, I guess, but
To be fair, you should also maybe maybe figure some of that stuff out.
Maybe
if you
have an
got that
account.
much money.
Yeah, just
Maybe have an accountant.
Save some of it. not
business
spend it.
advisor.
It's so
Yeah.
funny. You're like, you got all that money, and you're like, man, what should I buy? I should just start buying stuff.
Everything.
And you spend all the money.
Like,
And then-
this car's kind of expensive, but I guess I have the money.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's that easy. I don't know how much he got paid for Blade. I doubt it was more than $1 million, you know? But you can probably look up what his tax evasion bill
How
was.
many-
Yeah, crunch
many
the numbers
bucks?
for us.
Yeah, crunch the nums.
I wonder if the warden of the prison where he was staying was like felt either really badass or really scared. Like, yeah, I got.
This is
Blade
like
in
a
my
scene
jail.
where he's trapped in jail and he's gonna break free.
I've seen this
Yeah.
before.
And they're usually like in solitary or something.
They put him in
tax.
solitary. What the? That's so jacked up.
Because it's like you can't be with the commoners.
Put him on death row.
The commoners. Don't put him with the commoners.
This is a movie star.
Separate him.
It's the Tower of London. Take him to the gallows.
For your
Yeah.
stay, we'll be placing you in the third-story cell, away
In the
from the
tallest tower.
the tallest cell, away from the commoners.
Just imagine Wesley Snipes up there in a trench coat.
We're getting walked all the way up the stairwell.
So apparently Wesley Snipes was a little deeper in it than I anticipated. So from 1999 to 2004, so 5 years, he made about $40 million and paid 0 taxes and owed $23.5 million.
Oh,
He's like, I'll pay $840,000. And they're like, how about you go to jail for 3
it's
years?
like one tank's worth. of
Wow,
money.
3 years
Yeah.
in the tall tower.
So he actually spent 3 years in prison.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
Well, it was like a minimum security, like.
See, that's like
like
the
a
best.
Goodfellas prison.
That
Yeah.
isn't that like of all the things celebrities can go to jail for, that's the one you can really bounce back from. No questions asked, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not like, oh, you beat someone up, oh, you abused someone, oh, it's like, you just didn't pay your taxes, so you're still a good guy in my books. Like you can totally act, you can totally handle yourself on set.
Yeah,
You
you just make too much money.
Just keep the auditors off the set, and we'll be good.
I mean, if you can bounce back from beating up Rihanna, you can bounce back from not paying your taxes.
Yeah.
So
Ooh.
Chris Brown just keeps getting more famous.
yeah, I think that's really crappy.
It's insane.
I think there's something to be said. Like, here, can you guys separate the artist from the art, or are they tied in your minds? Because they're definitely linked in my minds. I can't listen to Michael Jackson anymore.
I know, I don't do R. Kelly.
Yeah,
It's such a weird. That is the deepest question that I think exists in our time right now, and because I try and keep them separate as much as possible, and I like because I'm like, can you enjoy something that someone you don't like has made?
Or you did like when you
Yeah.
first heard it, it made its deep impression upon you, and then you realized that you don't like them, which is often the case, especially,
Yeah.
well, with Michael Jackson, with any of the people who've been canceled over the last decade.
I mean, Michael has to be like the
mean,
hardest. That's the hardest to just even like that happened.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like the separation of like the logic and the emotional parts of your brain, really, because like the emotional part obviously still can enjoy everything just fine, I think, but then the logic part is where you're like, oh, you stop listening to the song and start hearing the cries of young children, and that's where you're like, I draw the line there.
Yeah, I guess it depends. I don't know. I've probably not listened to Michael Jackson since willingly.
Yeah, I don't actively seek him out.
Yeah.
I can acknowledge that his music grooves, but like I can give up Michael Jackson's music for the sake of not like supporting a man who slept with children. And for anybody who in the comments are like, well, that's not true. It's like, watch that HBO documentary.
And but then it gets deeper.
It definitely happened.
But yeah, but then it goes
100%
deeper
happened.
and deeper and deeper, and you're like, well, was it his fault, or was he like raised in a twisted
Doesn't
area?
matter.
Yeah,
I
it
know.
doesn't
See,
matter.
that one's like, no. See,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. You can't skip generations to blame stuff. You know,
But super fans justify that stuff just like that all the time. It's
Mhm.
pretty scary. And especially in the film industry. I mean, it's happened
Yeah.
a million times.
Yeah.
But that's it. I do think people also need to be able to forgive when somebody changes. Like we need to always make room for people to change and become better people. We can't just hold somebody to like if somebody does something bad and you will never ever forgive them and you always hold them to that, well then that's spiteful vengeance. That's not rehabilitation, you know? Like maybe there's lines that, you know, it's like, oops, I accidentally blew up this airplane. Oopsies, I won't do it again. I promise. Like, you know, maybe there's lines that you can cross that you can't come back from. But
it was getting bad. They'd like bring up super old tweets from you know, celebrities, and they'll be like, "Oh, you can't host this like Grammy show like 10 years later," and you're like, "I'm not the same person. I probably didn't even mean that." And they were like, "No, you're canceled."
I honestly think,
but you guys are playing Michael Jackson. Okay.
Yeah,
but I'm canceled.
That's a good point, though. I mean, people cancel people over a tweet. Maybe that's too far. I don't know. I think
just don't use Twitter, you'll be fine.
And also, it also depends on the art, I think, too. Like, if it's a film and it's like, say, the director or writer of a film that gets canceled, well, there's a lot more people who have artistic say in that film, right? Mm-hmm. I mean,
yeah. See, that's the other thing there too, which is like,
it's an army,
like,
literally.
Like Apple News pushes me like articles, and sometimes it's like 10 actors who turned out they were horrible people, and it's just like all the best filmmakers and actors, and you're like, oh, Alfred Hitchcock was a horrible person. It's like, whoa, okay. It's like, this is like everyone right now. Like,
it's Hollywood. I mean, yeah.
But no, you're right. Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's just like that. It's that group mentality a little bit of like, no, there's like plenty of great people who put a lot of work into this too.
Mm-hmm.
Also, there's a difference between like being an asshole and being like an evil person. Like, we don't get mad at drill sergeants for being assholes. Sometimes you have to be a little bit of an asshole to get stuff done. It's okay. They hurt your feelings. Big deal. They're an asshole. Get over it. But like, that's different from like, oh, they abused you. Like, you know, there's definitely lines that you can cross. But I don't feel upset if I found out like that a director was a dick to people on set. You know, as long as they're not like
just emboldens you.
As long as they're not like being abusive, you know, like I think there's definitely different like lines to cross.
It's like most people know that director is an asshole. It's like like you know, like everyone on set and productions, everyone knows, everyone talks about like the horror stories that happen, and you willfully go on that set and you're like, no, they're not going to be, and then they're an asshole. It's like, well, you knew that going in.
Also, though, like, there's a lot of pressure on set. I'm not trying to justify like straight abuse, but like, if you're a director on $1 million feature or an actor like Christian Bale and the whole sound guy blow up, he had every right to blow up.
Oh, 100%. He had not only every right, he was in the right to blow up on that guy.
Tom Cruise yelling at the crew about the masks and stuff. He had every right because he's funding that film. You know, he's producing it. Got a lot of pressure on your shoulders, and like, it all boils down to that one day. You probably haven't slept at all. I mean, dude, I can't imagine what being
Did you blow up on anyone on set when you filmed your movie?
We had like 12 people.
Are you an asshole director?
No, they were all volunteering their time.
Damn it, put the light over here.
I was probably too nice at some points, honestly, and could have gotten maybe a couple more takes.
It's
like, I should have gotten some more takes.
Yeah,
you know?
Interesting.
So, can you put the light over there? No.
Maybe that's what makes.
Or like, I'm trying to do like,
that's okay.
Yeah, maybe that's what makes asshole directors, because they were too complacent and didn't say enough.
Maybe.
And they saw what they could have done. And then they're like, no, I'm putting my foot down.
One more time, but more like the way the script. No, okay, never mind.
No,
can you maybe say the words there in the script? Oh, you don't want to? I guess that's okay.
Do you want to be in the scene today? No? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm sure
no, I'm not angry.
I'm sure we can find someone else.
Please don't cancel me. I won't tweet.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think there's a lot of things that the paparazzi and tabloids don't obviously want to acknowledge. Yes, the paparazzi.
The paparazzi. We have to say it Italian every time from now on.
They skew everything.
I totally get holding people to a higher standard sometimes, but it's like, okay, if that person wasn't famous, you wouldn't be saying the same thing. Like, normal people across the globe act a certain way, but then once a famous person does it, it's just chaos. It's like, they're a normal person. They're normal. Or like when Justin Bieber will say something weird.
And Justin Bieber is a good example, because he's actually like really, every time I've seen him like talk to paparazzi, he's been very like nice until he's not, because they straight up ignore him
to the edge. It's like, this is a human being who you guys are just terrorizing in the streets.
Yeah. I haven't seen the Britney Spears documentary, but that's like the vibe I get from everyone I hear, everyone I heard about who saw it.
And part of me is just like everybody that goes out and buys those magazines, they're supporting that. They probably feel like they're disconnected from it, but no, that's like you are part of that person that's, you know, torturing this person to get pictures. It's pretty gross.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have this philosophy that like that there's not necessarily good and bad people. It's more that everybody's good 90% of the time and they're an asshole 10% of the time. And it just depends on what time of the day. You know, did you happen to catch them when they rolled that 1 out of 10 when they're the asshole, or did you happen to catch them when they're nice? Because I kind of feel like that's really how everybody kind of functions. You know, like asshole drivers, usually it's just that the person probably is not an asshole driver most of the time. It's just on that one time in the day that you pass them, that's when they're being the asshole driver.
Yeah, I mean, that's what driving in LA is like, too. I get so frustrated driving to work. I'm like, everyone's an asshole driver. It's like, no, there's just a lot of people on the road. So that 1 in 10 chance is just happening all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like I'll look back, it's like, ooh, yeah, I was kind of a dick in that one moment on accident. And it's like, oh, maybe the other person was a dick in that moment on accident too. I don't know. It'd be good for us to give people the benefit of the doubt more often.
Yeah. Or not just, don't get so worked up. It's just never even worth it. Or there's so many videos coming out of people getting out of their car during rush hour and like hitting the person's car in front of them because they're getting like super angry. I'm like, well, it's not worth it. That person might kill you.
Yeah.
Hit their car.
At least don't stand in front of it if you're going to hit it.
I had a moment of like extreme confrontation on the road like 3 mornings ago.
Extreme
I was going to say like 3 years ago.
Yeah, dude.
Like, dude, put on your sport
what
shades
happened?
and
I was
fucking
heading
get
to
your
work.
Mountain Dew.
I think it was like Thursday or Friday. I was heading to work and a guy tried to merge into me. Like, didn't see that he was about to merge into me, and I could see his car creeping over. So I like start honking like, meh, meh, meh. I'm like, come on, what are you doing?
Hey, what are you doing?
I'm driving here. Yeah, the paparazzi. They're after me. No, but like, and he was one of those LA drivers that you see all the time where obviously never signals, probably doesn't look where he's going, just expects people to get out of his way, which a lot of people do, surprisingly. They're just like, oh yeah, I'm just going to drift over. And if you're there, you get out of the way. So I'm in front of him. He tried to merge in and I was like, meh, meh, and I like speed ahead. So he's behind me and he's trying to like get off to the side. And like, there's like a car here, so he can't go off to the side. And like, I was like, no, dude, I'm not going to speed up for you to let you by. And he got really pissed that he couldn't get by me. And also probably because I like honked at him, like, oh, sorry,
God
dude.
forbid.
Yeah, God forbid. It's like a Kia Soul honk too. It's like, meep. Like, it's like the nicest. Like, yeah, it's honestly like, yeah, it's literally like Beaker from the Muppets. And he was riding my tail, super aggressive. And I finally did merge over and he like merges right behind me. Like, he's like, I'm on you. And so I'm like, shit. So I get over one more time and and I'm like, oh, this guy's like, following me now.
I wonder if he like passed his exit at this point because he was like,
maybe. So, but like after a couple merges and he's like right on my tail, I was like, he's like pissed at me. He's following me. So like I'm right on the 7th Street right before the exit. And I like pull this like Need for Speed maneuver, like cut like 3 lanes. Again, I'm the asshole probably, but like I lost him. And this guy, so right on the 7th Street exit on the 101, there's like a shoulder where there's like with those barrels of water. He freaking skids to a stop, like almost hitting the barrels.
Oh, really?
Because I cut across and he tried to follow me, but he couldn't quite make it.
Wow.
And I left him. I looked over and his car's like, and there's like traffic piling up behind him and shit. Like,
Wow.
legit almost like,
What a nutbag.
dude. Oh my gosh. And I was like, heart
That's
was
really
pounding.
stressful.
I'm like,
but you
Jesus.
lost the tail, though.
Dude,
That's the
I
thing.
lost
It's
the
pretty
tail,
impressive.
but I don't know if I would have gotten like shot or something just
That's
on
what
my
I'm
way to
saying.
work if he'd like caught up to me or what would have happened. A golf thing.
Golf thing?
Golf thing.
also known as
What's this
They would have done the golf thing, too.
Golf thing happens.
We throw
then the golf thing
the
happened.
road rage golf balls.
He just starts throwing golf balls.
He gets out, he tees up a ball and he puts it right into my windshield. That'll teach you.
That is really stressful.
Dude,
Holy
it was
cow.
like so unnecessary. It's like, dude, you could have also just looked over your shoulder where you were merging, but oh no.
You know, just kind of did something like that to
Oh,
me.
yeah?
I was about,
Oh,
I
no.
park in front of them every single day, and the white van was behind me. And I didn't even see him because I'm chill when I drive now because I was my like blood pressure it starts getting up.
Oh, me too.
And so I start to go into my normal spot, and
So they're so conveniently reserved for
Do
you.
not park here.
where it says don't park, yeah. And then like the van goes like that and like cuts me off and like horizontally parks in 2 spots. And I almost hit the van because it was my right of way because I
Wow.
was going to their spot. And I was just like that. But then he gets out of the car and he's like, you can park in that one, or, like their other spot. And I was like, okay, like you almost caused an accident on Hunter Street because you just feel entitled. And it was weird,
pretty
but I
funny.
almost crashed into the van. That would have been a whole crew cuts episode.
I know. Daniel would have been like, yeah.
I'm like, corner is screwed.
You see Daniel in the window, he's like, and he just runs out
He's
with the
such
camera.
right.
And he comes out and puts clips the mic on you. And you're like, whoa!
He like goes like this to the front renegade guy. The guy's like,
You're
no.
just like, trying to clip a mic on him.
Oh my
Man,
gosh.
I really admire Daniel's persistence.
I know.
with the vlogs. I always try to make time for him when he needs to film with me, even if it's like interrupting everything else.
It's
'Cause
so funny.
Like,
Well, because like that's basically what he would do.
yeah.
I think he would make the attempt. He would ask and like, can I film this?
You have to if you're gonna try to tell stories. Like, even the most unproductive days, as long as I filmed with Daniel, I feel like I got something done. yeah.
real.
Yeah.
So good. And sometimes it seems like the most. You're like, there's no way you're gonna get a story out of this. Crew cut episode drops. Wow. You're
Wow.
like, this is the best story ever.
Yeah.
And everyone in the comments like, this was so meaningful. We had no idea what was happening while it was happening.
Yeah. That's real skill right there
Yeah.
in terms of editing and
Squeezes
storytelling.
the emotion out of those everyday moments. Oh yeah. Or like he'll like save he'll save scenes sometimes for like months.
Oh yeah.
And then
Yeah.
he'll wait till there's a perfect thing that it can support or that there's a, he can tie it together for some overarching story.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's like because it's all fabricated and like, but it's true, but it's 100% fabricated at the same time. Where it's like, because he's been filming all this stuff with the green screen, Unreal stuff that I've been doing over the last few months, and he's like, he came to Nico to film a bit with it, and me yesterday, and I'm like, damn, dude, like you've been like this whole thing. There's like a whole story here, and he's like, yeah, like, and this is what I need. This is what I want you to say for it, and like, it's like, you want me to say that? It's like, okay, and then I say it, I'm like, yeah, that was the truth. I didn't even know that. Like that was like the fitting part of this
Yeah.
story. I'm like, what the?
we're too busy to think in that
Yeah.
like kind of like storytelling, like emotional, like I don't know. There's something very like idyllic almost about it. It's like
Mhm.
core truths of like, and like it's always very positive, like
Mhm.
which I love. But I've noticed that sometimes we're not in the mind state to exactly give that, and that's where his like persistence, like you were saying, comes
Yeah.
in, because like, and like I know me, like sometimes he'll like try to interview me, and like I've never been like super like outward with my emotions towards people, and so it's still kind of weird sometimes like being interviewed about someone when I'm sitting right next to them, so like I've been getting hopefully
Yeah.
better about it.
They'd be like,
What's your
why is
least
Nico
favorite
the
thing
best
about
boss?
No, but it's always positive, and it's like, well, I should be able to say positive things about my coworkers in front of them, like even though like maybe it's not what I do every day, like so it's been a learning experience for sure, externalizing that stuff in such like a
That's funny.
literal way,
Yeah.
so
I've never seen someone just never take no for an answer as professionally as he
Yes.
does.
it's
Yeah.
great.
Because people be like, no, and then people like, well, like, yeah, it's gonna be a really good episode.
It's like the mics are. You're already wearing them, and the mics on. You're like,
already wearing
Yeah,
the
you're
mic.
like, when did you do this?
Daniel, paparazzi.
Damn, Daniel.
Yeah, it was like when we were doing the boxes for Nico and Ren crashes the drone and Daniel immediately goes like that,
yeah.
and Ren was like, I don't want to do this, and he's like, so I crashed the drone.
Oh, he
That was
crashed it.
such a good episode, dude. The moment when like
man.
Ren's goofing around and like I'm doing my first like box jump into the pad, and you're like, Ren, can you cut it out? And Ren's like, oh, and you just see it. Like that moment was captured so well. It encompassed everything because Ren was talking about like, I don't want to distract from Nico's big moment but I lost my drone and I need help getting it back. Then he calls on his older brother, Solomon,
Yes,
to go
dude.
get it. And Solomon just like pulls a move and jumps on the roof and grabs it. And it's
Yeah.
like, whoa. Yeah.
Yep.
And Solomon was such a pro. These comments pointed out like when I was jumping off the ladder that he'd reach up and he'd cover like the knuckle on the top of the ladder so I wouldn't smack my head onto it. It's like, yeah, those little touches. That's that's what being a professional stuntman, stunt coordinator, stunt rigger is all about. It's like that attention to detail and safety, because you can't get lax about those little things because you're doing it every day. And if you're rolling 100-sided dice and you hit that one, and you know that's an injury, it's like, and you're going to be rolling the dice 5 times a day, every day for like 10 years in a row. Like you're going to hit one at some point.
Yeah.
So you got to always take those little steps and be safe.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
will die.
Yeah.
I had no idea Ren was filming a story with Daniel for that. So I was like, I watched that moment back and I was like, oh, I totally deflated this moment. I was just
so
like,
good.
stop that.
I mean, you made the right
It was
call.
so
Like that
funny.
was definitely like the legit right call to make, because it's like we are trying to focus, and this is what we're doing here. It's this jump, and like Ren, you got to wait, and Ren kind of knew that also, but that's almost what made it even better. Yeah,
It was like perfect timing.
and then
though.
Nick got canceled for being an asshole.
Yes, I got canceled. The paparazzi.
Wait, I
Solomon-
missed that part. You got canceled?
no.
Not yet, anyway. Jeez.
Not
I better stop tweeting.
Yeah.
Better stop making movies.
I do get worried about like delivering too hot of a take on the podcast sometimes, and then
That's
people are
fine.
like, "What
Whatever.
the heck?"
Whatever.
Yeah, you're right. Whatever.
Don't worry about it.
I do feel like we're lucky in that everyone who listens to this podcast, like the audience that watches Corridor stuff, happens to be an audience that's very like thoughtful and even-minded. And honestly, like we have a pretty diverse, I think, array of opinions and what people enjoy in our audience. So it always like tends to lend itself towards good discussion as opposed to like name calling, which is awesome. So hey, if you're listening to this podcast, good on you. Good on you for being a cool audience member. Yeah.
Yeah. The end.
And
And that's
That's-
the end.
Wait, what?
That's the end of the podcast.
What it is? It is. I guess it is. Okay.
well,
No, I mean, that's like what a great note to end on, Nico.
you guys
Everyone
rule.
who's watching this is super
Yes.
cool. You should take that to heart.
Seriously though, I do really enjoy like the in-depth like comments that'll happen, especially like when we talk about something we don't know a ton about, and like someone's like, "Well, actually, I do this professionally," and it's like usually a really like helpful, kind, like, you know, hey, you didn't know about this, but let me enlighten you kind of approach. Yeah,
Wink, wink.
wink, wink. Oh wait, I can't wait to hear everybody's.
Housing market in SF.
It's like, I'm a realtor in San Francisco. Let me tell you about the problems here.
We talked about San Francisco for like a solid 30 minutes.
Those were the worst land picks of the month.
A
Worst
swamp,
biomes.
a swamp is not a trench. Excuse me.
It's called a fjord, actually.
Yeah, taigas. No,
We are not
no,
allowed
thank
in the
you.
Bay Area after this.
The top
We're never allowed
5
back.
landscapes, clearly.
And it
Our
is
grandmas are
$900,
rolling in
including
the
sales
Yeah,
tax.
just like-
I'm a professional thing taker.
Oh boy.
Grandma's living in SF. Grandma friends.
Okay,
We're
well,
gonna do a deep dive on that.
what are you guys? What are you gonna do with your $900 after this podcast?
Honestly, razors are expensive.
Oh, razors.
Razors.
Like scooters.
Like the laptops.
Scooters.
No, I'm a Mac girl until I die.
Okay.
Like shaving
yeah.
razors.
Shaving razors. Yeah,
I'm gonna-
I'd stopped shaving 10 years
Yeah.
ago.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's what I'm gonna get.
I'm gonna get some socks.
Some Hanes.
Now that socks are free. Oh, and I'm gonna get pro controllers for everyone in the studio.
Good
Thank
call. Oh, we gotta
Get me
start.
a
We gotta
Switch,
think about
actually.
having our.
If I can find a Switch, I'll get you one.
Okay, thanks.
We gotta start thinking about our Smash Brothers tournament soon. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost time. I
Don't
think we
look
gotta
at
do
me.
duos before that.
I know my character.
Yeah.
Duos would have to be a separate tournament, I think.
Oh, definitely a separate tournament. And Christian's my teammate, right? Yeah. Yep, me and Christian. King K. Rule and Ganondorf.
Well, Dean and myself will be the teammates because we have a winning combination.
One person
be
serves the
teammates.
sausages.
We're,
Yes, one person
you're
serves
way
up the
better than
sausages
me.
and the other
Oh,
one
now
chucks
yeah,
them.
Yeah.
No, well, it's the trees.
I need to
It's
be
the
your
suck
teammate.
and
Oh,
chuck
the
on the
trees.
trees. It's yeah.
There it is.
It's the
Okay.
trebuchet.
Teammate or
So to
opponent?
teammate, so I don't need
Jordan,
to
who would you
cringe.
team up with if you're doing duos?
Well, see, Nick was saying him, but he
No,
was like,
you don't need to-
I've gotten way
don't
better
patronize
than
me.
Nick.
No, Nick
I don't
thinks
play.
Smash
Since our
Brothers is
video,
stupid.
since the
I don't
one that
think
we
it's
did.
stupid.
No, I think if we run that video back, you were
Don't
like,
cancel
I don't
me.
get why people hit people. I don't know. I haven't really played with Chase, but I feel like Chase would be like,
Chase is a sleeper. People don't know it, but Chase is legit good at Smash Brothers.
if I had a duo.
He just waits in the shadows.
Yeah, he's been training and waiting. I feel like Carmichael's been doing the same.
Oh, did he get a Switch?
I think he has one or
Dang
borrowed
it,
one.
now I need to get one.
Are we gonna?
We need to get a
Are we
Switch.
fading out on this one?
Yeah.
We're fading
Okay.
out on this podcast.
Play us out, Sam.
Under the
No, we
sea.
can just keep talking and the volume will get.
Yeah.
I still want to hear what Jordan's pick would be. Who would be your teammate?
Me and Christian do pretty well together.
Christian's my teammate.
I know.
Fight over him. You should play each other solos.
Okay,
over
and
it.
then Dean is Sam's teammate, Nat.
Nat? Interesting.
Yeah. We both like to use our little lassos to make things happen.
me and Daniel can be teammates.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
There you go. Or Jake.
You'll forfeit.
Jake.
You'll just be like, no, we refuse.
Go back to work.
We are boycotting. And you guys have to come up with a real good reason to boycott that can trend.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Thanks for listening,
next time.
everybody.
Thanks,
We'll
guys.
see you guys in the
And
next one.
girls.